Welcome to Busia County. Karibuni sana kwenye county ya Busia, tukiwa kwenye mpaka ya Kenya na Uganda. Wengi wanaita county 040 ama county 040 kwa ule Mswahili. Tuna masuala ambayo tunaongelea ambao ni masuala ya vijana, tukiwa sisi wenyewe kama vijana tumejituma.
The issue of representation, remember those are actually party matters. Where we speak as a staff of the county assembly, we can have very little say. It's not actually an assembly affair here. Orange House, whatever. We just brought in the names. So whether those guys are over 35 or not, but then we are not actually to be blamed for that.
Your first question was about the issue of budgetary allocations. I want to restrict myself to the Directorate of Youth, okay? Because that's where I sit, and I'm able to raise some policies and programs for the Directorate. So, your first question was gender. I think that one, the person who can handle that is Gender Director, who is not with us, because I don't handle the issues of gender. Please, bear with me, and you are aware the person who can answer that question.
The issue of, it was about issue cleaners.
Okay. I've got it, yeah. I've got it. Yes, there is a labor-based policy that is lying somewhere between the assembly and the executive.
I think I want to commend the Department of Social Services and Youth and everything else, and Sports and Culture. It is one of the most accessible departments. That one, I give it to them. But then, this is such a huge department, and you can see it's having culture, it's having sports, it's having children. Like, all our issues are right here. But when it comes to the budgetary allocation of these activities, that is where the problem is. I have participated in most of the budgetary allocation, and I don't know how this particular department does their budgets. Because you go sit there, and there's no single budget line, for example, gender. Yeah? So how is it going even to work and support us as young people when you don't have that budget line for a specific thing? That is one. Secondly, I'm having very huge trouble with all your empowerment centers, especially in Teso North and Teso South. I'm a young person who, I've said I commend their efforts. I use all your empowerment centers. 5 of them are just empty halls, and I'm saying this without fear. These are just empty halls, and I'm very glad that I put them to use. Some of us young people put these empowerment centers to use. Every year you have a budget on equipping empowerment centers. What is happening for the last 6 years that we've been budgeting to equip these centers, and they're still empty? They don't even have chairs or tables. So what is their use if they stay empty for close to 6-7 years?
Issue of youth empowerment centers. Yes, I want to agree with you that some of them are empty. But the problem comes from the community, okay? We built the empowerment center. We were in the process of supplying there. Like this year, like Kamolo, we are in the process of supplying their water and electricity. But the first phase that we did, the facility was vandalized by the community. Now, surely, as a department, we became afraid because we put there more resources, they become vandalized.
Then lastly, we are talking of sports and facilities and everything. Akitunyi wase mniangalie tu vizuri na tuambiane ukweli. Tuambiane ukwe? Hii empowerment ya talent inafanyikia wapi? Hakuna. Stadium zetu ni field tu, bure tu, empty. Aina hata goalposts. And I'm saying as a young person who's been to Kopia and the farthest Osieko, I know this county like this. So this department has largely, I've commended them, yes, but again, they've largely failed us.
Sports talent, okay? We have the Directorate of Sports, and I said I want to restrict only to youth. That's an issue that is being handled by Sports Directorate, and I wish that maybe in other forums they might be able to handle that.
We are talking of culture. We are a community, especially all communities from Busia County. We are rich of culture. What are some of the efforts that this particular department has put in place to make sure that as young people, our cultures are maintained, and they're also helping us in the process?
The issue of culture. Our culture director is not here, but he's in a position to handle that. I'll be lying that I'll answer such questions. That's why you have 7 directorates. Please bear with me. Let me restrict myself to the issues, to the youth, the issues of youth directorate. Okay?
And lastly, this department is supposed to liaising with all other departments, whether it's trade, whether it's agriculture, so that our interests as young people are catered for in all other departments. And I think that is their role. We may not be sitting on the table, but we have a whole department that is supposed to liaise on our behalf to make sure that whatever is happening in the agriculture department, the interest of the youth has been catered for. Whatever is happening in trade, the interest of the youth is catered for. Yes, the youth of Busia County do not have capital and do not have collateral. The world has shifted from loans. We are talking of angel investors. We are talking of venture capital. What is the county government of Busia doing to make sure that the youth of Busia are accessing angel investors and venture capitalists? Thank you.
Na kama vijana, sisi wenyewe tuna suluhu kwa haya matatizo ambayo yanatukumba. Na tukiongelea suluhu ni kwamba tuna ile sauti. Sauti ni kitu cha muhimu sana. Mwingereza atasema you have the voice to speak for the voiceless. So tunatumai kwamba tukijitokeza kwa wale wachache ambao wanaweza kutamka haya maneno ambayo yanatusumbua, kwamba kutumia mbinu tofauti tuweze kusikizwa, tutapata suluhu ambayo tunajaribu kutafuta kwa leo ama kwa sasa. So vijana tutumie sauti zetu kuweza kueleza masuala ambayo yanatukumba na tuweze kupata suluhu kupitia zile mashirika ambayo yanatamani sana kutusaidia.
One issue that is really bothering me, and not just me but other young people, is that we've been excluded in leadership and governance. And once a young person is excluded in leadership and governance, their voice is not there. They're not at the highest level of decision making. So everything that it is happening at the higher level is happening on their behalf. But then the question we ask is, does it meet the need for a specific young person? Does it meet the aspirations of the young people of Busia? So that exclusion then leads to so many issues where there are no budgetary allocations, for example, to maybe in the trade department, in the agriculture department, like we're discussing yesterday. The youth department, sports and culture, doesn't have a budget. So how does it even then program for young people in this county? So it becomes a very huge challenge. So the conversation we are having now is, can you have us in leadership positions? Can you have us sitting at the table so that when these decisions are being made, we can speak for ourselves as young people?
What really what made me angry is the youth empowerment centers. We have 3 of them in Busia County, and 2 of them are not functional. 2 of them are just full of cow dung. It's just a grazing land, not even an institution.
The tantrums you saw yesterday is, again, as a result of the exclusion and invisibility of young people. Because when you're invisible, no one plans for you. And here is a whole docket that is supposed to negotiate in all other departments on behalf of young people. This is a youth department. It should go to agriculture, find out how many young people who are in agriculture have been given fertilizer, for example. How many young people in the trade department have been given loans? How many young people have been given contracts to make roads? This is the department that we are relying on. And clearly when you saw the tantrums yesterday, it was because there's that mismatch. Yeah, it's like these departments are not working in tandem, and therefore there's no functionality. And because of this lack of functionality, it means we are losing out on equal access to opportunities. We are missing out on opportunities to make money. We are missing opportunities even to realize our reproductive rights as young people. So it's so much when there's a disconnect between the youth department and all other departments, because you cannot exclude a young person from agriculture. You cannot exclude a young person from trade and economics, because right now there are no jobs in the country. So most young people rely on entrepreneurship. So as a youth department, it is your role to go and negotiate for young people to access loans from the trade department. It is your role to go and see what is happening in the water and sanitation department. So the tantrums were because all these departments excluded us in the first place. We were invisible. And because we were invisible, there were so many underlying issues and anger which needed to come out. And the fact that we expressed ourselves, and this was just being dusted and put under the rug, it was very annoying. That's why you saw every young person in that room was annoyed. There was no accountability. Someone was saying, yo, I'm not in charge of this department, but you're in the Department of Youth. And therefore, because you're in this department, you should be aware what each department is doing for young people. And therefore, that lack of accountability actually brought so much anger in the delegates who were here. And the anger is not even on the youth department per se. It is just on all duty bearers.
I think for us, the youth, it's now a time. It's not now that we are being offered positions, but it's a time to take these positions. It's time that, as in someone said yesterday, that you are the leaders of today, not leaders of tomorrow. And meaning leaders of today, we have to take out these opportunities. Meaning we need to stand for ourselves. We need to tell these political parties, we need to tell the government that it's now time we choose youths as leaders, not giving us a 98-year-old to stand for youths, someone who has elapsed youth 50 years ago.
Some challenges that young people are facing, it is first thing, and lack employment, unemployment. You can get employment, shida ni mingi yenye vijana wanapitia kwa employment. Kama kijana angekuwa anapata akona kazi yake, kuna vitu zingine angesumbukana kuingiza kwa mambo yenye hakuwa nayo. Unapata kijana anajiingiza kwa wizi, na kama angekuwa na employment, hiyo time yenye angekuwa anafikiria kwenda kuiba, angekuwa ako content mahali, amejificha mahali. So that's why unaona. Alafu kuna ingine waliniambia kwa mihadarati, dawa za kulevya. Unaona, inafanya mtoto anafikiria kwenda kujiingiza kwa mambo yenye hayafai kuwamo. Ingine ni challenges zenye wanapitia, lack of information. Unaweza pata kama sasa yenye ilikuwa hiyo kazi mtaani. Inapatikana kazi mtaani iko Busia. Na huko kwetu kazi hakuna. Na unajua saa hii changamoto mingi ni kazi. Hiyo tu ndio wanalilia. Kama kazi iko Kenya ingecreate kazi, ama president angecreate kazi, ingepatikana quite number, hata vijana angekuwa wanasumbukana na mambo mengi.
As I say, and I will always say, that the basic aspect of the youth coming in and learning what is happening is public participation. The importance of public participation. And the importance of public participation is, as the youth, we need to be hungry for the change. Because if you're hungry for the change, you will not put so many blockages on why you are not attending. But it's because you want to learn. You want to know on how you will benefit as a youth. You want to know on how you'll give your input, whether small or big. So we need to embrace the aspect of public participation, very key. And the fact that the organizations who have come on board to make this possible, that is the National Youth Council being one of them. We have the county government of Busia and United Nations Development Program having coming on board to make sure this is a success.
The dialogue between leaders and the youth, it's good. It's bringing that connection between the leaders and the youths, bringing the leadership of the county to the grassroots level. And I recommend it because it brings transparency. Those leaders come out and share what they're experiencing and telling us what they are facing. So we tend to understand everything they are doing, everything they are facing. So, and then we advocate for the change that we want to see.
I recommend it because it is the way youth will get solutions and the policies that govern us, so that pia si tukue na usemi kama viongozi wadogo. Tusikuwe tena kila mtu ati sasa kuna mikutano fulani unapata mtu si youth na anaenda kurepresent youth. So ningepende upande wangu na upande wa youth ningeomba serikali kama inaweza amua mtu mwenye anaenda kurepresent youth mahali popote ingekuwa ni youth, ndio youth anajua challenges zenye anapitia.
I think for the first time the young people of Busia, both male and female, have had an opportunity to access duty bearers, because most of the time we just complain and sit back. Sometimes we mobilize on our own as young women and have our own forums with women leaders from this county. But for the first time, we are sitting with every person from the national government and the county government in the room. And it's a whole process that allows for dialogue and conversation without apportioning blames to either parties. Because then as young people, we are able to see what the national government is doing for us, what the county government is doing for us, and some of the gaps that are existing. And they're able to see this candidly without feeling attacked, because these are conversation and it's coming from a good place. So I think National Youth Council should initiate this across the countries, because then it gives young people an avenue not just to vent, but also hold the government accountable, look for the solutions for the existing gaps, and plan for the future together with the government.
Na nashukuru sana kwa sababu nimejifunza mengi. Kujifunza mengi ni kwamba kushirikiana na hata ile county government ya Busia yenyewe, tumeweza kujua kwamba vijana wanasaidika kivipi ama watasaidika kivipi. So far we are making a progress, and I like the fact that just the few of what we have learned is to understand how governance will help the youth, the areas in which youth can come in. In just a brief of, we broke it down to aspect of legislative areas, the side of executive, we have the youth advisory board, and even the area of the employment in general as the youth. So we want to form these policies that will give guideline, because without the guideline, it is not easy to have the youth in places. So we want the youth to take up the places and cement the places, as long as even the youth themselves work towards getting into the spaces themselves, as we work through the policies. Nataka kueleza vijana wa Busia kwamba tujitume. Tunafaa tutake yale mabadiliko. Mabadiliko mwenyewe usipoyataka hautayapata, kwa sababu hakuna mtu atakupa. Tunasema kwamba serikali nisaidie. Wewe mwenyewe umefanya nini kwa kiwango chako pale ambapo ulipo? Zile rasilimali ambazo uko nazo umezitumia kivipi kuhakikisha kwamba umeleta mabadiliko pale ambapo unaishi kama Busia County? Kwa sababu tukilia sana serikali na wewe mwenyewe haujafanya chochote, hata serikali haitapata uzito wa kutaka kukusikiza. Lakini ukiwa umefanya jambo fulani wewe mwenyewe kwa nafsi yako, serikali itakuwa na muda na itaona urahisi sana kutaka kukusikiza, kwa sababu una uzito fulani. Hiyo uzito ndio ambao tunaambia vijana, jisaidie kwanza kabla uite serikali kwamba serikali isaidie. So to the youths, kindly do something for yourself. Be productive on your own as an individual. I always say personal growth or personal transformation. If you have it, even the government will listen, because you also have something to bring at the table. Yes.
We've been in Busia for the last 3 days to start the policy development process for the youth policy for Busia County. As you know, the National Youth Council, one of our functions is to promote the national, the KYDP, Kenya National Youth Development Policy, and we need to promote it and cascade it down to the counties, because that's a national document which we should be able to align ourselves in as counties. And so we are trying to work with counties and partners to be able to just come up with these policies, youth policies, so that youth issues are tackled more differently at the county level. We've had the issues of not, people are talking about focusing on youth issues, but they really can't show anything for it when they're called upon to. And so even the budgetary allocations for the youth programs, they're just on paper most of the time. But you see, we do not have a policy that is binding, that is going to ensure that, yes, we've committed to do this, but then where are the funds? So we are coming in here to ensure that the youth of Busia are taking charge of their affairs by getting into these dialogues, getting to give us their views on their problems and possible solutions. And we are bringing in the county, the leadership of the county, so that there's a dialogue. As we know, these dialogues are supposed to be there because these people are in leadership. These are the people who are being served. These people would probably sometimes feel aggrieved, and sometimes the leadership is also trying. But it's important that we have dialogues, just so that we are on the same page, even as we develop this policy. What has struck me most is the fact that there is some sort of disconnect between leadership and the constituents, who are the youth in this case, because youth expect things to be done in this way. The county also has their own way of doing things, but they are not in a position of coming together to reason out because there are no these forums. Youth do not have these safe spaces which they can just come out and air their views, and at the same time the leadership coming into these safe spaces without bias and just talking to the youth and letting them understand what is going on. Because you see, I was intrigued when one of the officers talked about finances. You see, of course, the youth, in their mind, these finances are being squandered or rather mismanaged. But the truth is, this is something that is already in the CIDP. This is something that is budgeted for. These budgets involve MCAs. If they do not give a budget line for this, then the county people do not have any other way of coming up with different funds. So it only means that we need to let youth understand, and understanding in the sense that we involve them. Involve them early enough so that we explain to them, this is what we have. Probably now let's petition or rather advocate, lobby the county assembly to give us more funds, because we will only work with what we have. But again, you will only think that we are not doing anything. So it's important that that dialogue is there. It's important that the county leadership look at this as an opportunity to get information from the communities, because again, it necessarily need to be youth. Women, men who are probably older than us would be in a better position even to give you some advice. Because probably they've worked in these offices before, and they could be having some information, or they're on the ground. You are not on the ground. They could give you some pertinent information that you will need. So let us, I would urge the counties, and especially Busia County, now that we are here and we are starting this process, let's have an open mind towards making this policy, because all these problems, actually, budgetary, disconnect, the fact that programs, people come up with programs and youth are not aware, or rather they come up with programs which, according to the youth, will not benefit them. There is need to speak up. There's need to have dialogue, and in that dialogue, there's need to ensure that all that information is in the policy. Because again, we will have dialogues, we can have dialogues, but if it's not outlined in the policy, then no one is bound. No one is bound to do come up, do any program. And we will be at that point of we are at loggerheads. And I think that is not what we would want as National Youth Council. We advocate for youth. We would want youth represented. We would want youth to be on the decision-making tables. And it is through these dialogues that the youth will be listened to. Being the voice of the youth means that we are bridging this gap. We talk to the leadership, and we would recommend to them that the safe spaces are there. We would recommend to them that dialogues are given a chance, because then that way they can also get ideas that they had not thought about, and they can also get ways of even implementing these issues, and it will make the youth, feel like they belong. I know right now the feeling really is that the youth do not belong, and somebody sits somewhere and plans for them, and I think this is a narrative that we would really want to get rid of at some point, or rather reduce, because it is what harbors a lot of negativity among the youth, and then in the process they think that no one is really thinking about them. So we will definitely recommend that the county leadership, leadership in other areas, take into consideration dialogue as one of the strategies that they're using to get information and eventually be able to give better services to the citizens, and especially now the youth.